Did you guys know we recently hit 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube? Well, we'd actually be at more like 6,000 if the 85% of you returning viewers actually hit the subscribe button. You scroll down just a little bit and there's going to be a subscribe button for you guys right here. You can even hit like on the video or share it with your friends too while you're down there. And our description box down below also has links to all of the different socials I have. And the best part is you can even leave a comment telling me how much you enjoyed the video, or didn't. I don't care, it's your life. Subscribing doesn't take anything but that 1 second of time, and it really helps make sure that you don't miss any of my uploads. So if you are enjoying watching all of my content, it helps you out, and it helps me out. Now that you've done that, let's get back to the video. Hello everyone, we are back with round 2 of this league challenge at Kirwan's game store in Catskill, New York. Looks like we have a Lugia deck here on the right. Ooh, starting the Radiant Charizard is not a very good start. That thing has a 4 retreat cost and takes a lot of energy to attack with. And usually Lugia does not play any switching cards. This is why I don't play Radiant Charizard in the deck. Although it's not a bad idea. I would say if you're playing Radiant Charizard in the deck, you definitely have to play at least once. Well, I guess you have the Jet energy, right? So I guess maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Oh, and we're seeing the Great Ball build as well. Wait, why are we flipping a coin? Oh, maybe we didn't decide who's going first. Oh, maybe he's playing it like capturing a robot, but no, it's Great Ball. Okay, so we're fixing that. Almost looked through the deck. That was almost irreparable, but yeah. So we are gonna look through the top 7 cards to find a Pokemon card and put that into our hand. Looks like that's going to be the Snorlax or the Archeops. Looks like we're just gonna show all of our options. Oh, he's showing off the Drapion. I gotta show you guys this. Kid likes Drapion. He collects Drapion. Okay, that is all. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. So now he's going to capturing Aroma. He's going to flip a coin and get a result, of which I can't tell what it is. We'll find out when he searches his deck. And it looks like we are against a Pidgey in the active spot, so this is probably what a lot of people call Arvinzard. It's just Charizard Pidgeot. Looks like it was a Tails, so we search our deck for a basic Pokemon that will find the Lugia V. I think it might have been better on the previous search with the Great Ball to maybe find the Archeops to be able to discard it. You do have the Jet energy, so on the next turn you could Jet Lugia into the active and then use its first attack to discard a card and draw 3. So yeah, I think maybe I like that better than getting the Snorlax. Especially since your hand is so dead. The only supporter that's in there is the boss's orders. So we're going to go Battle VIP Pass here. We can find any 2 basic Pokemon put onto our bench. It is turn 1, so we are able to play that. Cannot be played any turn after turn 1, though. We are going to get, it looks like Pidgeot V and Charmander. Pidgeot V is really good for use with the Forest Seal Stone, which we do see coming down here as well. That could grab you yet another Battle VIP Pass. I would like to see that, actually, because then that could grab you another 2 Charmander, or it could grab you another Charmander and another Pidgey. It depends on how you want to be set up. If you think your active is going to get knocked out next turn, you definitely want to be able to... Oh, or you can go for the Arven instead, actually. You can play a supporter if it's your first turn going second, so we can use the Arven to grab a tool card as well as an item card, so use that item card as the Battle VIP Pass. So by doing it this way, you do get 1 additional card. So we are going to go Battle VIP Pass, and the Forest Sealstone will likely be the second tool. I'm pretty sure these days they're only playing Forest Sealstone as tool cards. And we already saw that in the deck that was earlier in there. He did pass by it. It was right in the front passed by it again. Unless there's another tool card that's in the list that he prized. But I think you just take the Forest Seal Stone and just put it down on any Pokemon because you've already used your V-Star power. Yeah, so see that Forest Seal at this point could have just been the Battle VIP Pass and you could have saved that Arven in deck. So, since you didn't grab the Forest Seal Stone, I would have liked to see that the other way. He's showing, hey, I have Radiant Zard too. So we are going to grab double Charmander. I like the double Charmander grab. I would say that you just, you know, you risk the Pidgey going down, hope it doesn't happen. And the Pidgeot V is really cool because it can shuffle itself and any attached cards back into the deck. So it looks like we are just going to go and do that right now. So you could have also done that before playing the Arven. If the, let's say the other Forest Seal Stone was prized and you still wanted to thin your deck of a card, you could always shuffle the Pidgeot V back in to make sure it's no longer in play. Then play the Arven and get that Forest Seal Stone. But it just feels like a waste of an Arven. We are going to play Path to the Peak, though. That is pretty powerful. That will shut off any V Pokemon abilities, as well as EX Pokemon. Any Pokemon that has a rule box does get shut down by this Path to the Peak. So, looks like we are going to attach an energy to the Snorlax, the Jet Energy, that will force it into the active position. And again, had he gotten the Archeops on the last turn instead, he could have used the Jet Energy to put the Lugia up, and then use Read the Wind to discard the Archeops and draw 3. But since that Path to the Peak has come down, I actually like this play a lot better, because if your opponent just has Rare Candy Charizard, you lose. So, attacking with a Snorlax feels a heck of a lot better. Snorlax does fall asleep. It is, looks like paralyzed, though. Counterclockwise is asleep. Clockwise is paralyzed. Okay, so yeah, it looks like we're flipping for the Snorlax, so at least one of those is Tails. And back into the Lugia turn. Yeah, so was that just a draw and pass from the Charizard? That's not looking good. Looks like the Great Ball does find ourselves a Luminion that will be able to search our deck for any supporter card that we like. And as we're shuffling, we do see the Luminous Energy is in the deck. That does count as a Rainbow Energy, but only if it's the only special energy attached to a Pokemon. So the Radiant Charizard will be able to attack by using that Luminous Energy. However, it has to be the only energy on it, so you can never attack with Charizard any earlier by using something like a Double Turbo, because that shuts the Luminous Energy off, makes it a single Colorless Energy instead. So I almost feel that if you're playing the Radiant Charizard, you might as well just play a basic Fire Energy, because the Luminous Energy just doesn't do much of anything for you. I do know that with Paradox Rift on the horizon, pre-releases have started this past weekend. A lot of people are hyping up Iron Hands EX, so much so to the point where people are adding it and basic lightning energies into their Lugia decks to be able to win the mirror and take additional prize cards. And I don't know how I feel about that, only because it's basic lightning energies. It's so hard to find just like your boss's orders when you're playing 2 Luminion in the deck, because like you use your Pokemon search and you flip heads instead of tails, so you can't find your Luminion and stuff like that. And our players are just making faces at each other instead of actually playing. That's cool. We have another Snorlax going down to the bench. I really do like that alt art Snorlax, but as I was playing, I actually played Colorless Lugia to these last 2 league challenges, and my Snorlaxes were warping pretty badly. I have 1 of the regular Snorlax, and I have 2 of those alt art ones. The alt art ones were significantly curling, so if I play Lugia anymore, I'm going to have to use my spare regular art Snorlaxes, because I can't play with a card that's that warped. Looks like we are removing our own Path to the Peak in order to play Rare Candy and get that Charizard EX into play, using its ability to grab 3 fire energies out of the deck and attach them to our Pokemon however we like. So 2 of those energies do go to the active Pokemon, and it looks like our players are just stomping around, so the camera's shaking. And now we're slightly off. Move that back to the center. And we do take the knockout on the Snorlax. We did have to commit the therapy energy to the Snorlax in order to wake it up to do that last attack. So now that's 1 less energy that we have available to us, which is always a scary thing. Lugia generally plays an average of 14 energy right now, and it still never feels like enough. Our players are pretending to smack each other across the face, and this is why I normally put Masters, but they begged. I normally have a Masters only rule to my camera, but today I made the exception because I'm so popular around the kids here. And I think this is an example of why I do Masters only, guys. What are we doing? Gangnam Style now on the left? What's going on? All right, so Burnett is going to discard 2 Archeops into the discard pile. Now that the what's it called? The Path to the Peak is no longer in play. We can use Summoning Star. However, since the Collapse Stadium is in play, we still can only get 1 Archeops onto the bench. Because we only have 1 bench spot remaining from the Collapse Stadium. So even though the Path of the Peak is no longer in play, we are still limited by the fact that there is that Collapse Stadium. We're going to use one of the many Drapion that are off to the side of the board, flip it over to use, say we're using the V-Star power, and then flip it back active so that it's just a Pokemon in the Lost Zone with a different sleeve. I don't know what's going on. So we are using the Primal Turbo of the Archeops. It looks like we are going to be able to start loading up 1 Pokemon here. So it looks like that will be the Snorlax in the active spot. We will be able to get a double turbo as well as a gift energy. Normally you would want to go for that second therapy energy to make sure that Snorlax can attack multiple times, but I'm not expecting that Snorlax to live another turn. As well as the fact that your hand is probably a little bit weak at this point, so if the Snorlax does go down with the gift energy on it, you can draw until you have 7, which is a fantastic decision. I do like the gift energy on there for right now. Looks like we do flip just 1 coin, and we're going to confuse the Snorlax this time. Last time we paralyzed it, this time we're confusing it, neither of which were actually asleep. But 180 to that Snorlax is pretty significant. The player on the left is now going to have to find a second rare candy this turn. And this is a very odd mix of stadiums to be playing in Charizard. We have Lost City, Collapse Stadium, and also we have Path of the Peak. Path of the Peak is very counterintuitive in a Charizard deck because if Path of the Peak is in play, your whole deck doesn't work. The Pidgeot EX is usually your consistency option, usually to find you rare candy or boss's orders every turn with the quick search ability where it can search your deck for any one card. And the Charizard's, I believe it's Infernal Rain ability. Yeah, I think it's like Burning Darkness is the attack, and then Infernal Rain is the ability. So that's also shut off by the Path to the Peak. And yes, that Snorlax does go to the Lost Zone because of the Lost City. Completely irrelevant in this matchup. The Lost City is more for things like Lost Box and Gardevoir EX, where them not being able to get their Pokemon back is a lot more impactful to the synergy of their own deck, not being able to use things like Super Rod to keep their win conditions coming left and right. And it looks like we are going to use a Candy Wrapper as a V-Star marker now. We're going to flip the Snorlax over because the Lost Zone Snorlax is our V-Star marker, but then flip it back up. Again, I'm not quite sure why the game state is so messy. Besides the fact that I think it's a junior versus a senior, if I'm correct. We are going to use our Primal Turbo yet again. We do get double turbo energies, which should be enough to be able to take that knockout. We have 180 on the active Pokemon. We are now doing 180 again because of the double turbo, reducing a total of 40 damage. And we can also discard the stadium if we want to. Honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to leaving the Lost City in play. You can Lost Zone your opponent's own Charizard. And I'm fairly confident that the Charizard deck, I haven't played with it, at least in this form at the moment. I did play a little bit of the Arceus Charizard and a little bit of the Lost Box Charizard, but I haven't made my way around to the Arvinzard, as people call it, the Pidgeot Charizard deck. But I am pretty sure they play at least one Super Rod, so if you leave the Lost City in play, not discarding that with the Tempest Dive with Lugia V-Star, that Charizard can go to Lost Zone. And then it's going to be even harder for them to establish a second Charizard EX. Looks like we are dropping cards onto the floor. Hopefully that was from hand and not from deck. And that's why we have to keep all our cards on the table at all times. So we're going to find that Snorlax out of the deck to bench it. Snorlax is a really good attacker against the Charizard just because it is the single prizer. So you do have to play 2 shots against Charizard EX, whereas as the game goes on longer, the Charizard can one-shot you the more prize cards you take. So if you're putting consistent pressure on with the Snorlaxes, your opponent's only taking 1 prize, and every other turn you're taking 2 prizes. So you usually do want to get the full value out of all 3 of your Snorlax if you can. And maybe even throw in an Archeops in between if you do have to maybe attack with the Lugia at some point. So looks like we are announcing Tempest Dive. Are we keeping the stadium in play or not? We do get the knockout. And since there is no next Charizard EX, this might be a win here. And we're going to drop the boss's orders out of our hand on the left there. That's going to be sitting paralyzed underneath the Charizard. I don't think Cyrus is ever paralyzed though. Unless, except for that time he like fought Giratina and he like pooped his pants. So, action. Someone has to make an action. Yeah, Tempest Dive being announced. Going to take the knockout. Telling his opponent to pay attention. And the Charizard will go to the Lost Zone. And yes, that is actually noticed immediately. A lot of the times, even when I have the Lost City in play, I kind of forget that it exists. And the Pokemon always end up in the discard pile. And then immediately afterwards, we have to fix that. We're just going to Jet Energy the Lugia to the active and be able to take the next prize card. So we are going to clean up that game very easily. And we are about 20 minutes into the match already. I felt like that one could have been played a little bit faster. But we had a lot of joking around happening. So I guess you can do that if it's best of 3, 60 minutes. But you usually want to have these rounds conclude as fast as possible so that the next round can happen as fast as possible because, again, this was a 3-round league challenge and I was there for like 5 or 6 hours. Because it was supposed to start at 2, it started at 3. Every round was 60 minutes plus 3 turns. At least one game went to time every single round, even though we were doing 60 minutes. And there was a round 1 repair and a round 2 repair. Thankfully, not a round 3 repair. I would have lost my mind. And we're going to pile shuffle now. So, if you guys have seen Azul's video, I don't really have to describe it. But pile shuffling is not shuffling. It's just stacking your cards in a specified order. So it does not help you randomize your deck sufficiently. So every time you pile shuffle, you still have to do a minimum 7 riffles in order to thoroughly randomize your deck, as per probability odds. So it really just wastes time. So I don't like it. And anytime somebody does it against me, I mean, I try not to be rude about it, but like, it does tilt me. But I'm not going to be cracking any kneecaps like Azul would be if they did it against him. So it looks like we are going to mulligan here for the Charizard player. So that will be a nice free card for Lugia. And Lost City was in there upside down somehow. I do believe that those are also the Mew Ultra Premium Collection sleeves, I want to say. I did notice, I'm pretty sure that the clear die for coin flips that comes out of the Mew UPC is like red, blue, and green colored. It's really cool looking. Because I've seen a few of those floating around recently. And I kind of want one. I should have just bought the Mew UPC instead of buying a half-art Mew EX for $16 on TCG Player. I feel like that was the wrong decision. Could have just done the Mew UPC. And got like a metal card that will be worth like infinite money in like 30 years. Looks like it was 2 mulligans, so we're going to draw an extra 2 cards, being a Snorlax and a Capturing Aroma. And we're going to start a Dunsparce, a very interesting inclusion. I suppose it is more correct to play the Dunsparce in the Colorless Lugia, because you do not have the mix of attackers like you do in Single Strike, having the Darkness and the Fighting type attackers. And if you guys have seen, I have like a couple of like Twitch clips that are on my YouTube channel. Before I started really doing shorts, I've only done a couple of shorts here, but I do have a TikTok as well. That I put a little bit more time into the TikTok than I do the YouTube shorts. And honestly, I don't put that much time into TikTok either, but there's a couple little clips where I think my opponent knocked me out with the Dunsparce and I knocked my opponent out with the Dunsparce. Like two different games on PTCGO that were both, I think, the same day. Back when PTCGO was still a thing. God, I miss that compared to PTCGL, but so much easier to get cards on PTCGL, but I just wish the game worked. I'm really tired of Psychic Embracing my opponent quitting the game while I'm doing it. I like sit there for like... I sit there until the timer activates when I have game on board before I click Psychic Embrace, and then my opponent will wait until I click Psychic Embrace to quit. So then I have to close the game and then go back into it. Such a hassle. We're going to flip for Capturing Aroma, which is a result, either heads or tails. I'm not sure what we got yet, but we will find out in just a moment. Probably a basic, because we just eyed up that Lugia V. Oh no, it looks like an evolution, because now we're eyeing up the Archeops. Okay, so we got a heads for the Archeops search. We do have double Ultra Ball, so this will be a turn 1 double Archeops in the discard pile for sure. But what will we discard with it? Honestly, I think getting rid of the boss's orders is not too big of a deal right now. Most of the time, what you want to be knocking out in your opponent's board is going to be in the active. The only other time is if they have a Pidgeot on the bench, you can bench your Luxray, accelerate your reversal energy to it, and then you boss up that and knock it out. And that's usually pretty good in the Charizard matchup. That's really the only time where I feel the need for boss. Or I guess if they like hard retreat a Charizard into another one. But usually if they do that, it's benefiting you because you're two-shotting 2 Charizards and you're keeping prize cards on the board instead of putting them in your hand if they retreat, which then limits your opponent's damage output. But unfortunately, that Dunsparce that's in the active spot is not going to be doing anything right now because, again, there's nothing in the Charizard deck that hits any of these Pokemon for weakness. There's no fighting Pokemon for the Snorlax. There's no lightning Pokemon for the Lugia. It's all just darkness Pokemon, fire Pokemon, and colorless Pokemon. Also, since dragons haven't had any weakness for quite a long time, since they got rid of the fairy type, I was just thinking that before they actually made a specific dragon type in the TCG, dragons were printed as colorless that were weak to colorless. There are no Pokemon cards in the game right now that are weak to colorless. I would not mind them bringing back the colorless being weak to colorless thing for dragon Pokemon, and maybe just getting rid of the dragon type in its entirety, but still make them require the multicolored energies like they do now. Or we could just make dragon weak to dragon. That would be fine too, but I feel like dragon type does need a weakness again. Because it can be a little bit annoying that a mechanic that can be relevant in so many other matchups is just completely irrelevant against anything that focuses on a dragon type Pokemon as an attacker. So it looks like we do have the Arven for the Forest Seal and the Battle VIP Pass. Getting a full bench here. Going to use the V-Star as well after the deck is shuffled and cut. As always, guys, you want to make sure that if you're going to go back into your deck, might as well just not shuffle and have it cut. Save that time. Especially since this player on the left with the Charizard is already down a game, and they're halfway into the match. In a 60-minute best of 3, they're already 28 minutes into it. So if this player wants to win this game and the next game, they're going to have to play a lot faster in order to be able to make sure they can have a complete game 3 if they get that far. So by cutting your corners where you can in a clean way, like not an incorrect way, because like normally, like if you say cutting corners, that's a bad thing, but like if you're searching your deck and then going to search your deck again, why shuffle and have it cut? That just wastes more time. And our Forest Seal Stone is taking forever because we're just having a random conversation with one of the players that was on the round 1 game. Must have finished their match already and keeps coming by to talk to these players instead of having them play their match. So are we thinking of getting that rare candy? Do we have the Charizard EX in hand? So whatever we're Forest Seal Stoning for, this is turn 1, so it can't be rare candy because we can't play it this turn. If we were to grab the rare candy now, then we're just opening ourselves up to an Ino on our opponent's turn, and then we immediately lose the rare candy we searched for. So it must be something like another basic Pokemon to put down, and no, it looks like we did search a rare candy. I feel like that's a very incorrect play. I feel like you should have just left it on the bench with the Forest Seal Stone on it and passed the turn, and then you could use the Forest Seal next turn and then shuffle it back into the deck. What you're trying to avoid right now by shuffling it into the deck here is make sure your opponent doesn't go boss knockout, but I feel like you'd rather have them knock that out than a Charmander. So like that increases how many prize cards your opponent has taken. So they're doing you're going to be doing an extra 60 damage. So you're doing, what is it, 180? I guess you're still not one-shotting a Lugia at that point. But you can always Iono your opponent to a smaller hand size at the very least. Now we're doing some dance moves or something. Gonna play down the next Snorlax. That's definitely a given. You should already have double Archeops in the discard pile, so you use your Summoning Star, get out both of those Archeops, retreat your Dunsparce into one of the Snorlax, and then swing. No, we only have one Archeops, so we had double Ultra Ball in our hand on turn 1, and we never went for that. So I feel like turn 1 was not played optimally. If you have 2 Ultra Balls and a bunch of cards in hand, you Capturing Aroma for an Archeops, you Ultra Ball for another Archeops, then you Ultra Ball away that Archeops, and then you have both Archeops in the discard pile. So now we're going to play another 1 Archeops game. And it looks like we're going to use the Archeops just to retreat this active. Didn't we attach the therapy to Snorlax this turn? It's a little bit hard for me to keep the turns straight right now because they're so long. I mean, we could always attack with the Dunsparce if we wanted to put 2 energy on it. Could roll out for 30. That would 3-shot. Oh, I guess okay, so the therapy energy must have been last turn. So we accelerate to the active so we can retreat it. And now we're going to be able to attack with the Snorlax. The therapy energy will block it from being able to fall asleep. So it will stay awake. And we're just hoping that our opponent does not have Rare Candy Charizard. But I'm pretty sure they have 2 Rare Candy and at least 1 Charizard EX in hand. Now it looks like they don't. As guess we got Ionode and I missed it because it's really hard for me to follow what's going on. I apologize, guys. So So we're going to Ultra Ball. We're going to get rid of the Pidgey as well as a Battle VIP Pass. You can't play the Battle VIP Pass because it's not turn 1. And we are going to be able to find, it looks like Charizard EX is being eyed up. We must have a rare candy in hand, but I would think if you have the rare candy in hand, maybe you go for the Pidgeot instead this turn. Pidgeot cannot be one-shot by anything in the Lugia deck right now. Except by the Luxray, and the Luxray is shut off due to the fact that the reversal energy is not active. So yeah, you always go for the Pidgeot here. You can use the Pidgeot to start setting up the Charizard for next turn. Pidgeot is also kind of cool because its attack is actually kind of relevant. You wouldn't think so. It does 120 for 2 energies, 2 colorless energies, and then it... Why did we retreat into the Charmander? We need the Charmanders to evolve into Charizard. Much more than we need the Mew. Because you could always just Pidgeot for like a research or something and dig. Or an Ino. Or an Arven. Yeah, and we are rightfully getting rid of the Pidgey because we did not evolve into it. So I'm not sure why we played the Ultra Ball to search out the Pidgeot if we're not immediately evolving into that. Because again, that's just a really easy way to have your Pidgey bossed up or your hand Iono'd because you telegraphed to your opponent you already searched for a card that you needed. So we are going to use this Archeops to load up the second Charizard. So both of these are loaded up with the Therapy and the Double Turbo. We can use Primal Turbo next turn and just get 2 Double Turbos to be able to put onto the Lugia V-Star. Or it looks like there is a Double Turbo in hand already, so you could attach that for turn and then use the Archeops to get maybe Gift Energy, V-Guard Energy would feel pretty good on the Lugia. But I feel like right now you just take the knockout on the Pidgey. Your opponent's consistency is absolutely crippled, and I don't think that there's any way that they will be able to set up at all in this game. You're going to be already 2 prize cards ahead. That's a pretty good spot to be in at this point. Especially with double Snorlax loaded up. Even if a Charizard does come into play, you can hit into the first one with the second Snorlax and then hit into it again with the Lugia to knock it out. And it's going to be very unlikely that your opponent is going to be able to find their way into 2 Charizards, especially now that that Pidgey is down. It looks like this Mew is going to be a fail, so we saved that Mew, trying to sacrifice that Charmander just for the Mew to fail anyway. Of course, we tried to sacrifice the Charmander, but it was bossed around. So the Pidgey ended up going down instead. Yep, so there's the attachment of the Double Turbo Energy. We're going to use the Archeops as well. Again, I would assume it would be V-Guard Gift, and it looks like that's exactly what we're going for here. There's Gift, and we're failing on the second energy. I'm not sure why we're failing on the second energy. You had already brought the V-Guard up. I'm always a fan of like using your Primal Turbos until all your attackers on board are fully loaded up. Just because that increases the consistency of your gift energies being able to find you cards like Boss's Orders, like Luminion for Boss's Orders, which is usually what you need every turn to clean up the game in late game with Lugia. So by thinning those energies, it's a lot more beneficial to you that way. Maybe not so much in single strike because you have to be very careful of where your single strike energies go. But in Colorless Lugia, it always feels like you can just load up all your attackers because they're all colorless anyway. Might as well just get them all loaded up. You know what you're attacking with every turn if something goes down. And then, of course, if you like put energy in the wrong place too early, you're always just able to like just bench Wyrdeer, attach a jet energy, and then move whatever you want to the Wyrdeer. Take a big one shot. So, still talking to the peanut gallery over on the side. All that we need to do right now is swing with Snorlax. Just swing with Snorlax. Swing with... There we go. And the last Charmander goes up into the active spot. If we want to live to see another turn, we need to bench another basic Pokemon. It looks like we have the Pidgeot V. That's not the kind of Pokemon you want to be putting down right now. Because that will be a 2-prizer you could easily knock out with the Lugia V-Star, but you have to put whatever you do have down. We have Rare Candy Pidgeot EX in hand. Pidgeot V will not be able to evolve into Pidgeot EX. We're going to put the Vengeful Punch onto the Charmander. Vengeful Punch is a very suboptimal card, I think. It's so much better to just play Box of Disasters. Just because these Gardevoir players are the only ones that are really affected by the Vengeful Punch, and you can easily play around the 4 damage counters being placed on it with good use of Cresselia, whereas it's a lot harder for a Gardevoir to play around a Box of Disasters. It's almost impossible for them to play around it, unless they can just Lost Vacuum or Boss around it. That's really the only way they can do it. They can't usually set up their damage counters in such a way to where they're not going to knock themselves out if they're taking a one-shot on something like a Charizard EX. Alright, now we're doing duck faces. You guys can't see it, thank the Lord. But they are doing duck faces. And their faces are turning red. Yeah, and now at this point, all that we need to do is boss the Pidgeot, knock it out with the Lugia. That's all we need to do. And it looks like we are going to retreat into the... Okay, we can knock it out with the Wyrdeer too. We're going to load the Wyrdeer up with all of the energies on the board. In order to definitely overkill that. We're probably hitting more than 300 damage at this point. That's 4 double turbos. Each one of those is going to reduce by 20, so that's 60, 60, 60, 60. So that's 240 right there. Plus 40 is 280, 320, 360, 400. We just hit 400 damage. Yeah, and that was the game. As always, guys, do not forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time for 2 Masters Division players. I promise, it's Masters Division players right now. Next time. Okay. Bye.